Hey guys, today we're going to be making blueberry crumble ice cream. Let's get started. In a large bowl, you're going to want to add about 3/4 cup of flour. Into that, you're going to add 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and 3 tablespoons of light brown sugar, lightly packed. Add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And now use a pastry blender to thoroughly mix in the ingredients. Just crush those up and just mix them nicely. You really just want, you can also use a fork if you want to, but mainly your goal here is to crush that brown sugar and get it evenly distributed, like this. Next, we're going to need 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. You want these cold and then cut into chunks. To do this, I just put it in the freezer for like a good 10 to 15 minutes, and then I took a knife and I chopped up into pieces. You're then going to once more use that pastry blender, or you can use a fork, and you're going to cut this in until you get kind of like pebble-sized pieces. Alright, and that looks good. So you want kind of like this, a little bit darker, kind of like a wet sort of look, but still pretty dry. Now we're going to add some water. We want just enough, this is kind of like pie dough in a way, but you want just enough until a nice dough forms. You're looking for like a cookie dough texture. I ended up using 2 tablespoons in all. So now we're going to shift to hands here once it starts looking a little bit more dough-like, and just continue to add water as needed if it's a little bit too dry. It should look like this when you're about done. Okay, so now we're going to roll out our dough. So just take a piece of parchment paper, put it on your counter, and dust it with a little bit of all-purpose flour. Once dusted, we're going to grab our dough. It might be a little sticky, so dust it with flour, and we're going to flatten it out on our parchment paper. Now, a great thing about this part, this is going to be our ice cream topping, so we don't really have to make this look great or anything. We're going to chop it up anyway. So just roll it out until you get to, I'd say, a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch with thickness. Somewhere in between there should do it. And again, don't worry about how it looks here. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we're going to transfer this over to a baking sheet. And then before baking, we're going to put this in the fridge or freezer for a good 10 minutes. Meanwhile, let's work on our fruit. So for the fruit, you're going to need a small saucepan. And in that saucepan, you're going to put, I'd say, about a 1/2 cup to 1 cup of blueberries. Kind of just eyeball it, it'll be fine. I also rinse those off before using them. To that, add a 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to go to the stove with this. Cook on medium-high for 3 to 5 minutes, and I'll show you what it should look like when it's done. Now back to our topping. It's been 10 minutes and it's pretty firm, so we're going to dust the top of this with some nice sugar. And you don't have to get it like fully covered, just wipe your hand over it to get a nice covering. And then we're going to bake this at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. While that's baking, we can finally actually get to the actual ice cream. So we're going to add 4 ounces of cream cheese to a bowl. And then we're going to simply mix that up to break up the block of cream cheese. You want the cream cheese to be softened for this. Then we're going to add a 14-ounce can of condensed milk, sweetened condensed milk. And then we're going to add 1/8 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I use vanilla bean paste instead of like vanilla extract. And then we're going to mix this up just until it's smooth. That should do it. Let's move on. Okay, before we move on to the next step of the ice cream, here's our cookie. It looks really nice. It's nice and thick too. And here is our fruit filling. You see it's nice bubbly and slightly thickened, but not too much. We're going to add this to a glass bowl, just so to help it cool down a little bit. And I'm so sorry for all the steam. Yeah, let's just push that out of the way. And here we go. Now, using a stand mixer, or you could just use a large bowl and a hand mixer, we're going to add 2 cups of cold whipping cream. And we're going to whip this cream up until we reach, I'd say, medium stiff peaks. This is going to take just a little bit of time. I'd expect like 3 to 5 minutes at most. Just until you get to this point. You can kind of see the trail being left, and if you like lift it up, you get a bit of a peak, and they hold. Now we're going to add this into our condensed milk mixture. So what you're going to do to add this is first you're going to add just a little bit. Kind of just want to introduce it in there. And we're going to fold the small amount into our mixture first before adding the rest of all of it. So just fold this in. It doesn't have to be completely mixed, just until most of the streaks are gone. Then we're going to add all the rest of the whipped cream and fold it in now completely until all the streaks are gone. Be gentle. That should do it. Now we need to add our toppings. To do this, simply chop up that cookie. Look at that, man. Like, I love the, you know it's good when you have like that dark, dense center going on. We're simply going to chop this up into little squares. Big as small as you want. Just keep in mind you're going to be like, eating these in your ice cream, so keep that in mind. I always go a little underdone on this cookie because I really like nice chewy toppings. But we're going to add this into our ice cream base, and be sure to save a little chunk of the cookie for the topping. Now let's fold this in as gentle as we possibly can be under the circumstances. And finally, grab a loaf pan for assembly. Add half of that mixture to your loaf pan, and sorry, the camera is going to keep shaking. That bowl's really heavy, okay? Like, it was hard for me not to hit the camera, so bear with me. After spreading that onto an even layer, we're going to add our fruit on top. So all you can do is, like, you can see, like, I put this in the fridge for a little bit to help it cool down. Make sure you do that so it doesn't melt your whipped cream ice cream. And look at that, woo, already done. Yeah, unfortunately my camera cut out so you didn't get to see the pretty part. Don't worry, all you're gonna be using a knife and swirling this in, and luckily we get to repeat this thing, so let's do all those steps again, and don't worry, you'll get to see it this time. So we're gonna add that cream on top, sorry, the rest of the ice cream I should say. Spread that out evenly. And then once again, we're gonna take our fruit and spoon it on top. Just add a little bit of dots. And now, there we go. Isn't that pretty? You're just going to swirl your knife around and make a beautiful pattern on top. To finish it off, we're going to add the last of our cookie chunks that we saved over from that big cookie. Just press those in wherever you want. And then I like crumbling up a few pieces to kind of give it a little bit more dimension and make it, I don't know, it looks nicer. And here we go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you try it. I really liked this one. Please don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.